mission, or rather, he was on a mission in Pittsburgh. Oh, we live. Is this a live broadcast? I thought we were recording things. Oh no. Only kidding. Welcome to Thornybush Game Reserve. Thornybush, actually it's Thornybush Private Nature Reserve. And my name is Mark. Welcome to Wild Earth. Welcome to our afternoon safari, live safari coming to you from Africa. And on camera today is the Land Rover was supposed to roll down. Andy's on camera today. Andy's our editor, and Andy's going to say hello to you. Hopefully, done it.
Yeah.
With the back camera and all.
It was a quick one.
It was a quick one. Oh, so you expect everybody to see you already?
No,
Oh, okay. Andy's on camera, and Aaron and Brian back in final control. Hope you're going to join the afternoon with us. Lovely Sunday afternoon here at Thornybush. Look, there's a terrapin. Terrapin! Where are you going, terrapin? The water's dropping, so terrapins are finding different places. I wonder if I should just ask the terrapin to come back here. There's a terrapin for Patty and Tammy. And I'm sure there are other terrapin or turtle lovers out there, but I know both Patty and Tammy are turtle lovers. Even if it isn't a turtle, it's a terrapin. But I do want to go and have a look at it. I'm going to take a photograph. So, excuse me a moment, please. Nice leopard tracks here that I followed this morning. You know, so often we see terrapins sunbathing at some of the dams and pans. I'm also full of wet sand and everything, but that's fine, I love it. So often we see just terrapins' heads sticking out of the water, or we see them sunbathing maybe on the backs of hippos or on rocks, or on the edges of some of the waterholes and pans and dams. And it's very, very hard to get an identification out of them, because a lot of them look very similar. They don't have any coloration, because living in the water they develop a little bit of algae and slime, and they just become a sort of a uniform brown over their carapace. So it's very hard to identify terrapins from a distance unless you can get really close. Now I'm really reluctant to pick it up and bring it here to show you. I don't like disturbing these children, especially at this time of the year. They're retaining a lot of moisture. To pick it up, what it's going to do is it's going to pee as a defense mechanism, because it is foul smelling, and I really don't want that to happen. Not only because I don't want the foul smell all over me, but mostly because I don't want it to lose moisture, don't want it to lose water. And it's more than likely the water here down in the Thornybush, this is the Thornybush River, by the way, the water down here is dropping rapidly. There will be subsurface or under the sand. The flow will still happen, but the surface water will disappear, and it's the time of the year that these terrapins need to go and find somewhere to dig in and spend the rest of the dry season, come out in maybe September, October, November if the rains are late. Already they've had a very extended summer, and that in itself has allowed them to spend more time out. A lot of them will still be in dams and pans, but where there are places where the water is drying up, they need to go. There's no time for them to go overland and find new water, so they just need to burrow down and wait until the rains come again. And I really like to know who is living in the area that I am, so I just wanted to go up to it and get an idea of which species it is. And it's a very, very interesting species because it is what we call the serrated hinged terrapin. And the serrated hinged terrapin has a hinge that is different. Is it different from or different to? But people say different from, and I always thought that was wrong. Yeah. But it's a lot different to the serrated tortoises. Now, if I can differentiate between tortoises, terrapins, and turtles, in the scientific sense, tortoises are land reptiles, chelonids. Terrapins are freshwater, and turtles are saltwater. And you'll find that common names all over the world vary, and you'll even find tortoises that are called turtles, turtles that are called terrapins, or no, actually it's the other way around, terrapins that are called turtles. I don't think you'll ever get confused with a turtle. An ocean turtle, seawater turtle, that's what it is. It's never called a tortoise or a terrapin. It's only terrapins that are called turtles and tortoises that are called turtles. So we won't get into that right now. But what it is you get a hinged tortoise, and what that is there's a hinge on the back, and we're sadly not going to see tortoises right now because tortoises are estivating. Tortoises are not really very active. Unless we're going to get a really heavy rainstorm, then we might see tortoises moving, but highly unlikely until the spring comes along. But the tortoises that do have a hinge on the carapace, just above the back legs, that allows the male movement during mating. It allows him to move the back of his carapace to facilitate mating. But when we talk about a hinged terrapin, it's a completely different hinge. And what it is on the plastron, just in front of the front legs, there's a leathery hinge on the shell, on the plastron, that allows the entire front, almost like a disc, a semicircular disc, to fold up and seal the turtle. Listen to me, terrapin, not a turtle. I've just made the distinction and I made the mistake. But it allows the terrapin to close it up, pull its head to the side and close up almost like the front door. I don't know. I do. I have my tortoise book, so I can actually show you. I can show you what it looks like. But I'm not fond of picking up animals and disturbing them. As we've been sitting here and chatting, this terrapin has moved off. And I really don't like picking things up and letting them go through that whole stress of being handled by a human being, because in summer when there's a lot of food and some things like that, that's different, but now going into the dry season, it's not something you want to do. So it's a really lovely book. It's a South African tortoise book. I'm going to show you the terrapin, the hinged terrapin. These are tortoises. Let's go to the index. Don't have time to page through it. So this is the serrated hinged, serrated terrapin, 65 and 66. Okay. Page 4 to 6. That's just got writing. I want to go to pictures. There we go. So, is that too blown out? Unfortunately, there's not a great picture of the hinge, but the reason why it's called the serrated hinge is because, and the one identifying feature about the serrated hinge are these serrations around the back of the carapace. And no, they're not showing me how they're not really showing me the hinge here. I don't think I've got the hinge. I bought this book in July of 1990. Always mark my books. there might be a picture of that hinge. Here's one of the hinged tortoises. And it is a black and white. It is a black and white photograph. But if you can see, this is the carapace of the tortoise, the head over here. The hinge on the tortoise is just in front of the back legs for those hinged tortoises that have a hinge. In fact, here in this line drawing, you can see this leathery, that little mark over there is that leathery hinge that allows the tortoise to move its back to facilitate its mating. But I don't know if I can find something here about the hinge on the plastron rather than the carapace. The plastron bridge. No. Anyways, by all means do a Google search. Serrated hinged tortoise. What I can do is, if I ever go home while I'm doing this live broadcast, I'll bring back a hinged terrapin skeleton, and I can show you the hinge. In fact, look, if you look here in front of us, I don't know if we'll be able to get it, but I can actually see its tracks as it came through this water. So now we know what species, one of the species of terrapins that we have. We're not going to get it because now I've washed dirty water over it. So that's a positive ID on one of the terrapin species that we have. Serrated hinge. Other hinged terrapin we get is the pan hinged. It doesn't have the serrations at the back of the carapace. The carapace being the top of the turtle, tortoise or terrapin, the plastron being the flat underside of the terrapin, tortoise, turtle. Carapistal. Say that. Terapis turtle. Mix all three together. They're known as the chelonids. Chelonia. If any of you Terry Pratchett readers out there, you might know that because Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels, the world is carried on the back of 4 elephants that are standing on the back of a giant turtle swimming through space. Did you read Terry Pratchett? Terry Pratchett. Discworld. Yeah. The 4 elephants on the back of the turtle. Very appropriate that it's 4 elephants that hold up the Discworld. We're going to the Pan and then we're going to head west. I want to see if there's been anything at the Pan today. It's been a lovely hot day. I'm going to just catch up with the other guys, see what they found. Andy is actually our editor. Andy's been doing some amazing editing. And he's on camera for the first time today. And there's your first challenge, Andy. The impala is gone. There were 3 species there. Saddlebull, impala and warthog. And nyala, actually 4. And there's nyala. Almost in one shot, but the impala moved off. Brian, sound coming through all right? Okay, cool. It seems that this is our resident saddlebull because when we started, there was a saddlebull stalk here. And then we just hear that it's the same saddlebull stalk, a female saddlebull. Probably about 80% of the water from our first drive has evaporated by now, or just sunk into the ground. It's not being fed by the seepage coming from the higher ground, so this is now drying up rapidly. A couple of weeks ago when we first started our drives, this was a lovely big pan. Are you on that big warthog? Both. Lovely big male warthog at the back there. Can't see the others. There were some others. And I guess the saddle bull is waiting for her knight in shining armor, her equivalent of the knight on a white horse, to come in, sweep her off of her feet, catch a giant catfish and throw it on the land for her. Okay, that's pushing it a bit. Probably. But the saddle bulls are one of those birds that need to find a mate, and they mate for life. So it's really going to be a happy day when we find a big male saddle bull stork here that's going to be courting her, because this poor girl's a little bit of an old maid at the moment. Yeah, wrong term. She's just unattached. Maybe she's a divorcee. With no baggage. Do you think there's a saddle bull stork dating site that we could put a profile on?
I don't know if think my beak is red enough.
No, I mean for her, we could take some photos and make a profile that's single, attractive, slim, meticulous, the way she's cleaning herself, well groomed lady saddle bull stork looking for lasting permanent relationship with a view, with a with a view to starting a family. See, she likes that. She looked. She shrugged. A bunch of Nyala bulls. Let's go around a little bit. Maybe we'll be able to pick them up. With those impala there, a bunch of Nyala bulls there too. Maybe saddle bull stork can take hours to clean yourself and look nice. Trust me, I'll try to film them. Sunday fun day. Hope everybody's enjoying the weekend. Some people are only starting their Sundays, perhaps early morning. Some of our viewers are way ahead of us. They're at the end of their Sunday evening, winding down after a wonderful weekend. We're glad to have you all with us. Let us know if you are new, or I'll just send an email to FC and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I live in Adelaide, Australia, or Timbuktu. Yeah, I don't think we'll get anybody from Timbuktu. I think they have very good internet there. Alright, you know what I mean. Also, if you have any questions, you would like to know anything, those Nyala or Impala, they are a little hidden. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to head to the eastern boundary of Thornybush, and we're going to cross the river again to the south. There were a couple of elephant bull tracks that headed south, and I don't know if they're still there. They might still be around. So I'd like to just make my way there for now and have a look in the south, and then cross the river again when the sun's a little bit lower and a little bit softer. By that time it'll be time to head sort of northwest. Being the dry season, the sun sets in the northwest. We're almost, we've got about 3 weeks to go to our winter solstice, and being in the southeastern corner of the park, no matter where we go in the afternoon, we've got to sort of travel a little bit northeast, so we've got to travel into the sun a little bit. But that just adds to my purpose in life, because the only way to really see tracks and find animals by following tracks is to look into the sun when you do have tracks. So it's perfect. I don't know how perfect it is for cameras, but there's a buffalo, nice big buffalo bull. That might be nice. In the reeds of the river. This is the Thornybush River. It actually flows into the Thornybush Game Reserve. If you want to let me know if you're watching or you want to have any questions, send that to drivequestions, one word, wildearth, one word, .tv. Sorry about the angle, Andy. Definitely lovely light on it. Sorry, I'll just secure the vehicle that it stays put and doesn't move. That's always difficult once I stop. Once we do, then it's steady. And this is an old buffalo bull that has chosen to live his life away from the herd rather than follow the herd. The herds invariably number 50, 100, sometimes 200, in some places even up to 500, 600. And with such large herds, they have to move constantly to find new grazing, find new water. They're actually a very important part of the ecosystem that play a very, very important role as a big herd. But sometimes these old bulls, when they get old, they don't really want to keep on moving all the time. They're no longer reproductive. It's a term, we use the term senile when we're referring to old animals that are no longer reproductive. And generally, animals that aren't reproductive anymore don't really last very long. So in their last days of life, sometimes it can last a few years actually with these old bulls. But they don't want to be caught up in the humdrum of moving around in a big breeding herd. They just find a spot where there's water and mud and grass. The three key ingredients for an old buffalo bull. Mud to wallow in, water to drink, or lie in for that matter, to escape the flies, and some good grazing. If we had some good line, I can almost see the clouds of flies that are on him. I don't know, can you pick it up? But we'd need him more or less on our right, looking into the sun to see them. But there are these clouds of flies. They're very, very tiny little flies, smaller than your domestic fly, that hang around the buffalo. And it's not that they bite, they don't have mouth parts to bite, because flies just don't have mouth parts that are able to, but they do have mouth parts that are able to suck blood. And these clouds of flies that are hanging around him can actually sort of, well, for us humans with our soft skin, I feel them when they try and put their proboscis into me. Because they don't have that local anesthetic that mosquitoes have. Mosquitoes are also a fly of sorts. I've seen buffalo that are so upset by these flies that they put their faces underwater to try and escape the irritation. And there's a giraffe that might come into the river for interview. It's just behind those bushes. I'll keep an eye on it, but there's a giraffe moving in the back here. You see its tail flicking. Deborah wants to know, is this Deborah in Florida? I wonder. Deborah wants to know about the moth that eat the horns. Yeah, they're from Florida. Well, it's not only buffalo. Hello, Deb. Deb wanting to know about the moths that eat the horns. There's the larva of a moth, and we call it the horn borer moth. Whose specific function in nature is to eat the horn material of antelope. So when an antelope is eaten by a lion or leopard or cheetah or hyena or wild dog, and its remains are left behind, there's no, maybe the hooves to some extent, because it's the same sort of product. But there's a moth that lays its eggs, and the larvae burrow into the horny covering of the bone. When we look at the horns of a buffalo, that is a horny covering of, there's an internal bone structure that is part of the skull that forms the horn. One of the primary differences between a bovid or the antelope and the bovids and the deer that you have in Europe and North America, whereby the deer don't have the bony structure internally that's connected to the skull, and that's why they lose their antlers every year. But these are not antlers, these are horns, and internally the structure is bone, part of the skull. I'm hoping that maybe I'll be able to find you a skull and I can show you. But as with everything in nature, there has to be something that eats whatever nature has produced. There's always a consumer of whatever living matter has been created. And so that hard, horny outer covering of all the bovid's horns, the buffalo, the antelope, there's the larva of a moth that burrows into it, and I haven't been able to find much about it, but I'm convinced that even in living buffalo, these larvae burrow into the horns. But it's the matter of, it's the act of the buffalo rubbing their horns against trees and in the mud that helps to control the larvae, as well as the eggs that are laid on their horns, to not do too much damage. But those, rather the texture, the patina of the buffalo's horns, to me show that there is a fair amount of horn borer moth larva in a living horn, or rather a living buffalo's horn. And it only really becomes evident when they die and the skulls are left lying around, because they can dig their horns into the mud and rub them against trees, and the tannins of trees probably help to control the whole thing. he's wearing some vegetation over the back of his horns. Now the middle of his head, where his horns form that very big horny, okay, wrong word, bony, that big mass of horn in the center of his head is what we call the boss. And it's only the bulls that have it. But he's wearing some sort of vegetation. He's picked up some creeper or something that's draped over his neck and it's hanging down, and he thinks it's flowers, and he keeps flicking his ears because it's tickling his face. And when you're out walking, when you So when you're out walking, this is the buffalo you want to be careful of, because in the breeding herd, the massive buffalo that you find in the breeding herd, they're pretty much relaxed with regards to us humans, but it's these old bulls that have left the herd, bulls that we call dugger boys. Dugger meaning mud, because they like to lie around in the mud all day. It's these dugger boys that can be a little bit aggressive. You don't want to meet up with them in these reeds on a walk. Getting back to the stalks, and a question from Vivian in Chicago. Hi Vivian. Vivian wanting to know the difference between a saddle-billed stalk and a saddle-backed stalk. And I can't answer that question because I don't know the answer. And I don't know the answer because I don't know what a saddle-backed stalk is. Can somebody please do a Google search for me? Well, we have quite an angle here, so it's awkward. But now that he's moved, I can move forward a little bit. You can just roll forward. Pardon? Look at that look, the corner of his eye. Straight to the car. I know it looks like a bit of an angle because we were parked on the bank of the river. But Vivian, I have to be honest, I haven't heard of a saddle-backed stalk. So I'd have to look that up. Unless there's someone out there that would like to do that for me and just send an email to Aaron O'Brien. Drive questions at wildearth.tv. I don't know what a saddle-backed stalk is. The saddle-billed stalk has this yellow saddle-shaped, it's not quite the cere, C-E-R-E, it's not quite the cere, but it's a bright yellow thing on the bull that's shaped like the saddle of a horse, or the saddle one uses on a horse. That gives it the name. That's just in case nobody knew what the back end of a buffalo looks like. And since we only have his back end, see if we can go back along this little track and film that giraffe on the other side of the river. The giraffe, big bull giraffe. Bye bye bye. far because he's on the other side of the river, but lovely big bull giraffe just across the river. Give you a bit of scale looking at the trees and the size of him. He's a big bull. He probably stands about 18 foot high, 18 foot tall to the top of his horns. Is he a bit far? Oh, okay. If you zoomed out, would you get the scale with that little grove of trees? Okay. Well, thanks to David T, my old friend from Long Island, Jack. Jack and David both saying that the saddle build and the saddle back stalk are the same thing. I've never known it as a saddle back stalk. I must actually look at that. Look into it. But thanks for that, guys. Answers that question. Quite a breeze today. This must be somebody new. Hello, Brad. Brad is in Wisconsin. Have I ever been charged by an animal while on drive? Yeah, I guess you could say I have. There's a lot of dispute as to what is he doing, that giraffe, and then he disappears. Almost a ton, 18 foot of animal just disappears. Brad, yes, to some extent. I mean, I've never been charged in a vehicle that has resulted in the animal hitting the vehicle. And then there's the concept of the mock charge, which some people dispute as to whether you could even use the word charge in the same sentence, because it's merely an animal trying to either stop you from coming closer or anyway. But yes, I've had a number of animals rushing at the vehicle in aggression because they don't like it. But I have to say, at least fortunately, touch wood. If I can touch a book instead of wood, water, I'll touch this wood. Micro wood. At least they haven't hit the vehicle enough. I haven't had to react to that scenario. picking up, Aaron? Good. Well, it's the only way out of here. Yeah. Get out of here, we do have to climb over a few pieces of wood. And now we got sunshine on a sunny day. Well, I was going to go across the river and head down south again, but I think give that a miss. Let's head west. I want to go up into the northwest. Maybe we'll get some elephants. We quite a way to go to get there. But the reason why I want to be there is because I followed look at that big snake track. Wow. Been a hot day, so even though it's winter, there's still snakes moving around during the day. Maybe we can get that. It's actually quite a nice set for my tire tracks. This is after we arrived here earlier. This is over my tracks from about 15-20 minutes ago. I think you can get that, Andy. This is a big snake. By the amount of sand and by the amount of sand that's pushed up from the sides as it's been moving in its serpentine motion. There's another saddle bull coming in. That's the male. The dating site does thing work.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we better go back to the pad. Let's just go back and see. Because up until now we've only ever seen the female. And that was definitely, I could see it in flight. I could see that was a male. I'd like to see him land next to her. Maybe they're going to do a bit of a courting display. Maybe he won't even land near her, but I wonder. Could it be that he's so busy on the nest that we don't see him much during the day, and that now it's warm, he can leave the nest? I'm just going to stop in here again at this pan with the saddle bulls. They call it Albina pan. I would have called it saddle bull pan. It seems the saddle bulls are the ones that dominate here. Here are the Nyala. See, it pays to come back after a while. Look at the Nyala bulls. A little bit more than the one at the back. Mrs. Saddlebill is not here now. Might be the other pan at the back. The bachelor group of Nyala, male Nyala. Back in. I just want the same piece of blade of grass, a little bit of sparring. It's not serious because when Nyala gets serious, they do more of a strut than horn bashing. Doing it anymore. Yes. I'm going to try it and make a noise. Sounds like I might have tied the mic down too tight. Yeah, I'm holding. Okay, I'm holding. Go for Andy. Okay, turn down. Adjust what? Oh, you mean you turn down the sound of the microphone? Alright. Okay, well I've loosened it as much as I can. Okay, so when I'm done we can turn up channel 2. We will come back again shortly. I just want to go towards that other fan at the back. See where? I want to see where the saddle bull landed. The The reason why I know it was a male, I didn't have to see the eye. All I could see were the wattles hanging down. And it's only the male that has the wattles. And we've been wondering about this lone lady saddle bull and her mate, whether she has one or not. I'm hoping the microphone's a little bit better now after loosening it. Might have put it on a bit too tight. It's picking up a lot of the vehicle stuff. Not here. No, not here. Oh, nice try. What we could do is just head on to a couple of other big Nyala bulls. There's a Nyala bull here with his hackles raised. He's got his whole dorsal crest standing up. So he's displaying to another bull further in. But now they've been disturbed by our presence and moving deep into the bush. I mean, a lot of Nyala bulls around here. Nyala bachelor paradise. It's the greatest road, but it's okay anyway. It's a very short little track up to the next road. And that'll give me a bit of a shortcut. Not really shortcut, but a better road to head to the northwest. I'm going to look for some elephant and leopard. I followed leopard this morning to a certain point, and further than establishing where they eventually left the road and spent most of the early morning hours, I couldn't really find them because I couldn't go off road and we couldn't see them from the road, but I know that they're there because their tracks don't lead away from there. And it's over. But there were also elephant way up there. The herd that we've had around camp the last few days has actually also gone up to the northwest. We'll make our way there and see if we can find anything. Strong wind now, actually the wind's picking up quite a bit this afternoon. Still coming in from the northwest, which is rather unusual. Some indication that there's still more weather moving up from the south, sucking in this air from the north. Prevailing wind is normally a southeasterly wind. And when it turns 180 degrees and comes from the north, the local people, the Shangaan people, say that it's going to fetch the weather. In the summer months, that the wind is going to fetch the rain and bring the rain in. And you could almost take that to the bank. Almost, because sometimes the rain comes in isolated showers, and you see it moving past as an entire thunderstorm, either east or west, moving to the north. Excuse me. Bulls that I was looking at tracks of this morning are around the lodge called Royal Malawan, one of the top lodges in the Thornybush collection. Question coming in from Marsha. Hello, Marsha. Marsha was saying that she saw a bunch of Nyala bulls at a pan or a waterhole with some females, and one of the Nyala bulls started displaying. And when a Nyala bull is displaying, basically what he does is he puffs out his tail, he raises that dorsal crest, and the entire dorsal crest, that line of hair on his back is like a mane that runs all the way down his neck and his back, and it's mostly white hair. He raises that white hair, puffs himself up, but he also starts strutting. He holds his head in a very particular way that is body language to others that he's a dominant, that it's a dominant stance. I think Marsha's saying that he was the only one that did that, and wanting to know maybe a little bit more info about that. Or I'm going to have to just stop talking because this section of road is one of the worst we have to deal with, and I'd rather concentrate on this because this is not easy getting over this. Or maybe I'm fancy talking. But I would say, Marsha, that he was most likely the dominant bull of that whole crowd, and that none of the other bulls wanted to challenge him. So none of the other bulls started displaying because they would have then indicated that they were willing to challenge him. And maybe just with the hierarchy and the status quo of... Hang on. Oh, I can't talk. It's hard to talk with the noise in my ear. But if he was already displaying to the other bulls that he was dominant, and obviously because there's a hierarchy that has been established, none of the other bulls returned his gesture to say that, well, I'm also feeling dominant, and then they would start strutting. I would imagine that that means that he is the dominant bull, and that none of the other bulls were willing to challenge him on that score. And it's one of those wonderful things in nature. It's one of the things in nature that kind of rules out outright aggression. It stops males from being bullies. It stops them from fighting with younger, less experienced males and injuring them, because the general rule is in nature, it's not always hard and fast rule, there are always exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, if a bull or a ram, whatever it is, if a male animal challenged by a more dominant individual acquiesces and shows submission, then the more dominant animal doesn't need to prove his point. He's already proved it. He doesn't need to go that much further. I wish us humans could learn something in that regard. But of course we can't. We won't. But I'd say that that's probably what it was that there were other bulls that didn't feel they were up to the task of challenging him, so they just sort of not only kept quiet, but just kept their body hair in check. Not raising their hackles, not raising the dorsal crest, not fluffing out the tail. I mean, why incur the wrath of the dominant bull when you don't have to? Andy, it's probably one of the worst roads we have to drive.
Sorry?
Probably one of the worst roads we have to drive. Although there's several that have sections like that. So what do we got? Back up onto, this has got to be probably one of my favorite roads, because it runs all along our northern limit of our signal area, pretty much from southeast to northwest. It's almost an east-west line. It's not exactly a straight road, but it's a very consistent road, and it has all the roads leading down to the river from here, almost at 90-degree angles. It's got a bunch of roads leading north to a dry riverbed and a drainage line system that houses or that is home to Malawan, or Royal Malawan Luxury Lodge. And all of these roads that run off of it are actually not roads that we can really take, because we lose signal as soon as we start going down them. But this road becomes quite a highway for animals. I think of the short time that I've been here, the most tracks and the most diversity of tracks that I've seen has been on this road, either moving north or south, crossing the road, or moving east-west along this road. And this morning there were some tracks of some big elephants. Not many, a couple of bulls, and I believe they've actually been found up near the Royal Malawan Lodge. The Royal Malawan is one of the lodges here in Thornybush, one of the Thornybush collection of lodges. You're welcome to have a look at that on the internet. Look for the Thornybush collection. It will give you all the different lodges that are incorporated into that collection of luxury lodges. Of course, that does include Thornybush Game Lodge. Okay. Please repeat that, Aaron. Always it's always those key words in coming through. This is kind of the limit of our radio signal by the sounds of things. I didn't get who that was from. I'm sure Aaron will try and tell me again, because as he was saying the name and some of the key points in the question, I was getting this noise in my ear. It breaks up like that. This is Africa, folks, and things don't work as smoothly as they do in the city. We're broadcasting from this vehicle across miles of bush to our main office, what we call final control, and the two-way radios have to go through all this vegetation, and we're kind of reaching our limit because we're up in the north. So please bear with me. Does Wild Earth have a and how do we that's what I heard, so I've got to get it repeated. That are hidden by the static on the radio. Does Wild Earth have a camp in Thornybush? And how do we keep the animals out? From? Oh, sarsaparilla. Sounds like that could be sarsaparilla. Rosie? Does Wild Earth have a camp in Thornybush, and how do we keep the animals out? Yes, we do have a camp in Thornybush. We occupying some cabins that were, I guess they might have been staff cabins. I'm not too sure the original use of these cabins. They're lovely little wooden cabins on stilts. And our main FC area is, I'll have to take some photographs, I guess. How do we keep the animals out? We don't. They come in. The other morning we woke up, the elephants were drinking out of the swimming pool. We actually started filming the elephants eating on the trees around camp. And there have been, daily the nyala come into camp. So we don't keep the animals out. In fact, that's one of the joys of living in the bush. A lot of the commercial lodges have electrical fencing around the camp, and that's kind of vital because you want to make a place family friendly. You want to make a place where people can come and enjoy the bush but not feel that they have to hide indoors all the time. And I suppose the other side of that also is that a lot of the lodges like to cultivate gardens, lovely grass, green lawns, and neatly trimmed trees, and sort of a modicum of neatness in the lawns. And unfortunately, when you let elephants and other things come into the gardens, the neatness goes out the window. You can forget about neatness. Yeah, the leopard tracks I was following this morning, we're going to eventually end up where she ended up. I hope we're going to find her. So a lot of the commercial lodges have a lot of the commercial lodges have these electrical wires. They're not deadly wires. None of it is deadly. All it is gives animals a bit of a jolt. Funny enough, animals learn, and they're not stupid. They learn to keep away from the electric fencing. But it's also to keep people safe. And I guess it's also for insurance purposes, because a lot of people that come to the bush, I have to be honest with you, and I'm not deriding ignorance, because one can never, there is nothing wrong at all with being ignorant with regards to how animals work and live and how the bush works, because city people coming from the city know things, to how people do things in blissful ignorance, and they put themselves in danger. So sometimes it's actually more for keeping humans in the camp than it is for keeping the animals out. I have to be honest. Having been in incidents where I find people going for 5-kilometer jog outside of camp, or I can remember one of my best was we'd been watching a lion pride on a kill in the morning, and obviously this chap and his daughter, teenage daughter, they had no idea where they were when they were watching the lion pride and eating on this giraffe kill. And shortly after breakfast they decided they wanted to go for a walk off some of the breakfast, because we do get it very well in these lodges. And we found them I mean, it must have been within maybe 100 meters of this lion pride on this giraffe kill, taking a morning stroll, oblivious to the fact that they were putting their lives in danger. So here are my elephant tracks that crossed this road, and those must be those same elephants that have been found up near Royal Malawan. But we don't have a commercial, we're not living in a commercial lodge or a commercial adventure. We're living in pit cabins stuck in the bushes, and so we've had elephant around our cabins, we had leopard around, and we wake up in the mornings as well. There's Nyala, the Nyala come and drink. There's a little pond. There's a little swimming pool, although we don't use it because it's winter, and even though the temperatures during the day are nice and warm, for me it's too cold to swim. But elephants being rather meticulous about the quality of the water that they drink, they came to drink out of the pool. I don't think the chlorine could have done too much damage. And then the other morning, sadly we weren't online because we had this problem with our IP addresses. But we woke up in the morning to find elephant all over camp. It was the same morning they were drinking out of the pool, funny enough. And there's a water tank just outside camp that's on a pressure accumulator pump that pumps water that feeds our showers and our basins and our kitchen. And the elephants had found the top. They could actually reach into the top of the water tank, and they were drinking water out of the water tank. That's because they like clean water. Back home in the Timbavati where I live, the water tank is up on a very high water tank stand, so that it's gravity fed, because I don't have electricity to have a pressure accumulator pump. So it's gravity fed. So the elephants can't get to the tank, but they know how to get to the pipes. And from now for the next few months, I know that when I get home I'm going to have to fix pipes. And I do it sometimes twice a week. I've got to put pipes back together again and bury them again, because the elephants would rather dig up the pipes and drink our fresh water that we're pumping from boreholes underground than go and drink in dirty pans or drink the algae filled water of some of the water holes. Sorry, what was that? Question from Deer. I'm not too sure what species you're referring to, Deer. Deer's asking, would the dominant male in a herd be the individual that does all the breeding, and would that not lead to problems with inbreeding? It is an interesting question. Of course, it demands, or it opens it up for starting this answer with it depends. Always depends. Sorry, you're looking into the sun. I know on this road in the afternoons there's nothing else we can do. But yeah, for most animals that live in a male-dominated society, a lot of the antelope and things, it might sound like it would be the case, but what one has to bring into the equation is that there are always other males that are vying for dominance, and it's never the same male that is mating with all the females, because I'm going to pause here because I know this might be a problem signal area. Just at this junction. If we go further on, we should be fine. We're going to go to one of the dams. We're knocking around the side of it. But there's constant fighting for dominance amongst males, especially when there are estrus females. I think... Okay, signal's getting choppy. Let's pause on the next one. know when that signal sort of steadies, please? Maybe if we stop signal, we steady. Maybe that water bucket is going to stay there too. She's quite relaxed. This is a water buck. We haven't really seen water buck much. We've seen them running off in brief glimpses, but she's actually standing still for a change. Yeah, not standing still. She's not running. Very pretty antelope. The hair of the waterbuck is a lot longer than all the other antelope because, as the name suggests, they are associated with water. They invariably are always near water and grazing on the grasses that you find close to water, which are the sweeter grasses. But their coat is waterproof. They secrete an oil from subcutaneous glands that help with waterproofing of their system. Their hairs are specifically designed to help waterproof the body, so that if they stay in water for extended periods of time, it doesn't affect them too much. And it's probably one of their main defense mechanisms is running into water when they're attacked by a predator, even to the point of just being so deep that only their nose is sticking out. But for an antelope, they're quite furry. Maybe not visible from here. This is a big female. It's a big waterbuck cow. I doubt whether she's on her own, because it is not really common to find a female on her own. It's fine to find a bull on his own, but generally you find females in groups, females and youngsters. This helps to answer this question about inbreeding and if it's always the same male that is breeding, but it isn't, because, and I can only really say this for this part of the world, because other parts of the world, well, no, other parts of Africa with different habitats and different dynamics work differently. So please make note that when I answer things about certain behavioral traits of animals, we're really just talking about this area where the bush is quite thick. The herds don't live in very big groups. You might find 3 or 4 females, and we can talk about waterbuck or kudu or nyala. A lot of the antelope are in relatively small groups. Sometimes they do come into estrus together so that their calves are all the same age.